Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. It's a pleasure to visit with you this morning. It is 8 o'clock Central on Monday, February 20th, 2023. We get together with our distribution partners most weekday mornings at this time to discuss strategies, tips, success stories, and support each of you. So I have two windows shared on the computer screen here to walk through with you. And what we're going to talk about today is the topic of using email campaigns to reach out to your prospects. So we've put together what was originally 5 and now has grown to a 6 email campaign that we're more than happy to provide you the content of, which we're going to review together today. And or if you want us to send it out to your prospects, we can also do that. But let's go through the content first. So the concept here is using drip marketing, multiple points of contact, providing valuable information to the prospect, and each time giving them the opportunity to progress forward. Would someone just confirm that you see both screens on your view? Do you see on the left-hand side an example of the email that we send out, and on the right-hand side you should see the word? Okay, thank you, Randy. So on the right-hand side, this is the scripting, and we'll go through and talk about it. And if you want to use this, you're welcome to. But when it's sent to the prospect, of course, it looks different. So for example, we just sent out this morning email 2 to our database. So you'll see this was the test, of course, but it's all about results, credit improvement strategies. That reconciles to this, and then we'll get down to it in a moment. But here's the actual copy and paste content. So if you wanted to do your own space there, if you wanted to do your own campaign, we can provide this to you free, of course. So again, on the right hand side, it's just the content to copy and paste. When you're actually sending it out, it'll look more presentable. You may want to put your company's logo on there. You obviously use some bolding for the headlines, keep it brief, maybe bullets or indentations, and then you always want to have a call to action. So again, this is what it looks like to the client or to the prospect that receives it. But let's go through the 6 email content and see if you have any questions or concerns. And I think this is a good discussion, frankly, even if you're not interested in doing an email marketing campaign, because the information that's contained within this campaign is informative, and it may in fact help you better understand the value proposition. So let's go ahead and go through it. So email 1, the secret to getting $100,000 of business funding. So that would be the subject line that the recipient sees in their inbox. And so the content for email 1 was, when it comes to business funding, there's something you need to know. You simply need to, no, can't see it because it's too large. You need to look credible enough, good enough, credible on paper to be fundable. At first, you might think that this is difficult, but it isn't. In fact, any business, even startups, can be fundable, and we have a grant subsidized program to help you, guaranteed. Here are the 3 things that most lenders look for. And you and I, we've talked about the 3 C's ad nauseum, right, during these morning trainings and other places. But you just have to step back. I encourage you to step back and realize most people don't know what you know. And if they did, then they would probably enroll, because they would realize that you and I can help them. So here we're building their financial literacy and helping them understand the 3 C's, because you will run into people that are good people, but they're financially illiterate. They just want funding. They just want funding. And the analogy I use is the toddler, that just shaking his hands and holding his breath and turning red and just saying, I want funding, I want funding, I want funding. Well, you have to qualify for funding, of course. And that's what you and I do, is help people qualify for funding. So what are the 3 C's? We're educating them about credit. And this is simply described, what we wanted is a 1-sentence description of what each of these C's represents. So from a creditworthiness perspective, it is a representation if their credit reports reflect that they've paid their bills on time in the past. I think sometimes people with credit issues, and most of us will have credit issues at some point in our life, so I'm not passing judgment, but I think sometimes we fail to look at it from the lender's perspective. Many people I talk to, they want to talk about why I have bad credit. I had health issues, or I lost my job, or it was the mortgage collapse of 2008, right, 15 years ago. But regardless of what the reason is, it really doesn't matter of the reason. What the lender is looking at is, does the proposed borrower pay their bills as agreed? So that's credit worthiness. Capacity is a big one that we're very good at helping clients with. And this is sometimes a bigger issue for some clients than is credit worthiness. And that is, do they have the documented ability to afford the loan that they're applying for? I was working with a client actually over the weekend. She's been with us for a short time, but she's not a brand new client, and that's where we're hung up. We're working with her to assimilate this concept. We've been able to help her get her credit where it needs to be. We've helped her get the collateral she needed, but she's stuck on capacity. She doesn't look good enough on paper. So we're educating her and supporting her to fix this, because what you and I can do as technical advisors is absolutely help anyone with any of these 3 C's. The third C is collateral. Do you have the documented assets to pledge to protect the lender? Because again, I think an astute person looks at the borrowing process not only from their perspective, but also from the lender's perspective. The lender wants to know, well, does this borrower or potential borrower pay their bills on time? Who knows what they'll do in the future, but what have they done in the past? If that's an issue, you and I can fix it. Do they have the documented capacity, the cash flow to be able to pay the proposed loan back? You and I can fix that for any client legally and ethically. And then do they have the collateral, the assets to pledge that protects the lender in case of default? So we go on with this email. What if you don't have the 3 C's? We simply fix the problem and make you look good enough, credible on paper to make you fundable. We do this for you guaranteed. And then there's going to be the action. So when we create these drip marketing pieces, we usually use a button for the action. So if they click here, and then it takes them wherever you want them to go. We don't just use the words. So that's email 1 of the 6 email campaign. Now, again, if you want to use just some of these emails, you don't have to go through the whole campaign. If you want us to be able to send it out for you, we can do that. We're here to support you. Our goal is to have happy funded clients, have happy financially successful distribution partners. So this is a new resource that we're using to accomplish that. All right, so that's email 1. If you're setting up your own campaign, you might want to offer a delay of a day, 2 days, 3 days. It's up to you. And then you go on to email 2. And so again, email 2 is literally the one that we're seeing over here, which to our internal database went out this morning. So with email 2, we'll just look at it from the left-hand side here. Is bad credit keeping you from getting funding approvals? This is really at the heart of our target audience. Our target audience, we can help many other people, but our target audience can be best described as bad credit entrepreneurs. They could be pre-revenue, pre-start, they could be startup, they could be mature, but that's our core audience. Now, do our clients have to have bad credit to go through the program? No. We know that there's the 3 C's, and that some people will have issues with other C's, not just necessarily credit, but this email 2, certainly hits the nail on the head, I believe, of that target audience. So we go on to clarify. At no charge, we assist credit and funding program participants block negative and add positive trade lines. So we call that the credit sweep and the credit boost, if you recall. And then we offer a couple success stories. This one just came in literally over the weekend, a client that enrolled about 60 days ago, because the credit sweep is normally a 60-day process. Although client 2 went through, this was actually our first client that enrolled, and it was less than 60 days, closer to 35. But this is the most recent client that just completed the 60-day process. So we just gotten the results and thought we'd share them. So this client, their TransUnion went up by 101 points, their Experian 179, Equifax by 103. So this is, I guess you'd say, the last client, not meaning the last one we'll ever do, but the most recent one that we just got the report back over the weekend. And then this was actually our very first client that we took through the process a couple of years ago. They went up by 224 points on TransUnion, 220 on Experian, 216 on Equifax. So then the pitch here is, would you like a stronger credit profile to get guaranteed access to $100,000 or more? Click here to learn more. They click here and it takes them to the call to action. So that's email 2. If you have any questions about these, let me know. If you're doing your own campaign, again, we'll provide you this content. You can change it up. You can change the order if you wish. Email 3, how to obtain a free funding plan and loan pre-qualification today. So we'll just make this larger. So since we're just focused on this now, you've seen before how it looks more presentable to the client, of course, when it's sent out. So email 3, if you need funding to start or grow a business, you should have a plan. An effective funding plan typically has 2 key elements: how much you qualify for now, and a plan to get from where you're at to where you need to be to make you fundable. Our nonprofit organization receives a grant to help small business owners do just that. If you like a free funding plan, click here. And so there's going to be a button on the actual email. So that's email 3, short and sweet. If you have any questions, let me know. Email 4, and again, you're going to spread these out at least 24 hours. You may put a couple days between them. But again, if you want us to run the campaign for you, we can do that for free. Email 4, why bad credit isn't a barrier to getting business funding. So again, you and I know that it's all about the 3 C's, and credit's frankly only one of the 3 C's, but it's the one that most people are most attuned to. And so we need to connect with them where they are. A lot of them will have a collateral shortfall, but they don't even know what that means. So it's pretty hard to go pitch, hey, we'll help you have more collateral on your financial statement, when that doesn't make sense to them. It's true, and we do it for free through the credit and funding program. Same with capacity. The average person doesn't know what capacity is, or that's an issue. They're just thinking credit. So while we're addressing all 3 C's, which is what's necessary to be fundable, you'll commonly see credit is the conversation starter. Why bad credit isn't a barrier to getting business funding. Historically, most people thought bad credit was a barrier to getting business funding. That simply isn't true if you know how to work the system. Now, when we say know how to work the system, we're talking about legally. I'll tell you a quick story. Probably shouldn't. I'll tell you a quick story. We had a vendor that we worked with a couple years ago. That vendor is now in federal prison. That vendor didn't follow the law. They did, frankly, some of the same concepts we have, but they didn't keep it between the lines. And so they did things that were not appropriate, that were not legal, and them and their whole team has been arrested. Our program is absolutely legally compliant. It has been reviewed by our counsel. We've even gone through, because of our referral relationship with the vendor that went belly up, the FTC even came in and looked at our program to make sure that it was legal and compliant. And it is. We didn't get in any trouble, no fines, no cease and desist. So everything that we talk about is within the lines of law. Nothing gray, nothing illegal. So when we talk about working the system, it just means with knowledge, right? It's no different than taxes, right? Well, if you know how Section 179 of the IRS tax code works, you can go buy a vehicle under your company name and deduct 100% of it and take accelerated depreciation. Is that cheating line? Will that get you in trouble? No. So pretty much everything is composed of knowing the rules and following the rules. But when you know the rules, you can use them to your benefit legally and ethically. And that's what we're talking about when we say work the system. Our nonprofit organization received a grant to help small business owners rapidly qualify for a minimum of $100,000, start or grow a business with a 3-pronged approach. So we help them with the credit sweep. That's where we block applicable negative items from the credit profile. We've got credit boost to add new positive trade lines. And then even we can do a rapid rescore. We've not talked much about this, but this is an available resource where we can, for example, let's say we have a client that has high revolving credit utilization. We can get a private loan, which wouldn't show on their credit report. We can get a private loan, pay off the credit cards. Instead of waiting for the reporting cycle to go through, now we have the ability to do a rapid rescore. So get that immediate benefit instead of waiting. So that's something we've kind of had access to in the past, but we're leveraging that more now. And so again, everything is legal and ethical, but this is a pretty strong trifecta, if you will, three-prong approach to improving credit. And this is much different than what most others can do. I mean, there's an infinite number of credit repair programs out there. We're not a credit repair program. That's what we demonstrated to the FTC and it stands. We are not a credit repair program, and we don't charge for the credit process, by the way. But the point is the credit sweep works. We just saw some success stories up here. The credit boost obviously works, because it's not just about credit score, it's also about the profile. We can't just remove applicable negative items. We need to be cognizant of adding positive trade lines. And then the rapid rescore, of course, is powerful. Best of all, we can help you without paying for better credit. Yes, free resources are available through the credit and funding program, and then call to action. So I think this is a pretty strong one. Anyone have any comments or feedback on email 4? Curious what your thoughts are. Okay, let's move on. Email 5, 5 things you should know to get business funding. If you want business funding to start or grow a business, there are 5 things you should know. First, getting funding is easy if you look credible on paper, and anyone can become credible on paper. So we're kind of like doing myth busting, aren't we? Because there's a lot of people that think it's impossible or nearly impossible to get funding. They don't realize what the problem is. The problem is often they don't look credible enough on paper, and that it's certainly possible to help anyone become credible on paper. That's why we're able to make this promise. I have one client, I'll leave his name out of it, but he's, I mean, to talk to him, he's well versed when you speak with him, but there's just like this fundamental disconnect. He doesn't qualify for funding. He doesn't want to follow the recommendations, but almost daily he's calling in wondering where the hell his funding is. And it's like, my friend, we've got to get your file fundable. So that's the beauty of what you and I do is we're really embracing financial literacy, because there's just about everybody, just about every small business owner wants and needs capital, but they often don't know what the problem is. The problem is they're typically not credible enough to get it, and that's the solution that you and I do. So 5 things that someone should know if they're looking for funding as part of email 5. Easy, anyone can become credible. Credible is defined as the 3 C's. So again, we're continuously going back to that because it's the core of lending 101. If you and I were to go into a local high school and go into their economics course and do a 1-hour class to the seniors that are soon to graduate about what you need to know about borrowing money, it would start and end probably with understanding what the hell the 3 C's mean and how to go about optimizing those. Most people don't know. Thirdly, becoming credible from a credit perspective is easy when leveraging free resources like the sweep and the boost. And of course, credit blocks applicable negative items and boost adds positive trade lines. Fourth, becoming credible by having adequate collateral is easy by simply transferring assets. So again, I have clients frequently that'll come to me and say, well, this isn't going to work. I don't have any assets. I don't have anything to pledge as collateral. Well, no problem. We will transfer assets to your financials to provide collateral. And we do that free now through the credit and funding program. So I guess half the problem is a lot of people don't even know that collateral is important. And the second group of people may realize it's important, but they feel hopeless or helpless because they don't have collateral. Well, we take care of that. I mean, we're literally transferring income producing assets over to their financials. And then the fifth of the five things is becoming credible by having adequate capacity. This is just so important, and I think so many people overlook it, is that a lender, well, what's the number one thing that a lender wants? They want to be repaid. They want to be paid back. More than anything, they want to be paid back. So they tend to try to filter who they're going to loan money to based upon the risk of not being paid back. Well, of course, the 3 C's come into play here, but right now we're talking about capacity, because if you can't have demonstrated cash flow to be able to service the debt, then they're probably not going to want to loan you the money. So what do we need to do? Well, there are some sources of capital, some sources of funding that accept self-reported cash flow. So that way we wouldn't have to have it documented. But our best case scenario is to create legally and ethically the documentation so we qualify, and we can help anyone do that. We have a white label partner that was kind of upset over the weekend. I was emailing her this morning. Do not worry. We can help anyone create the capacity needed to qualify for funding. All 3 C's are fluid. It's not that, oh, I'm in a bad position now, this won't work. No, if you're in a bad position now, let's see where we're at, create a baseline, create a plan, and fix it. And that's what you and I do as technical advisors. We go on to say in this 5th email, while this may be confusing at first, it's really a simple formula. If you meet the underwriting criteria for funding, you get approved. We hope you become credible enough to access a minimum of $100,000. Sherry's asking a question about this, and it's a good question and well-timed. Why do we always talk about this 100,000, 100,000, 100,000? Well, first of all, when we applied for the grant and received the grant, it was off the premise that we can help any small business owner get at least 100,000. So that's why you hear us talk about it so much. Now, following up to Sherry's question or concern, well, why 100,000? That is an attainable amount that we can help anyone get. Now, many clients want more than 100,000, and that's fine. We can continue to build their 3 C's so they can qualify for more than 100,000. It's not the ceiling, but that's the promise that we made when we got the grant. It's a promise we make in each client agreement that we'll work with them to get at least 100,000 because it's doable. It's achievable. I'm trying to think of a good analogy. I'm not a real big baseball fan, but let's just say that you and I were baseball tutors or coaches, trainers, right? And so we have a little leaguer, I guess 12 years old, I don't know, and his parents come to you and I and say, okay, I need Johnny to be a good pitcher, to be able to throw the ball and play in baseball games. Well, can we teach little Johnny to throw strikes? Sure. Now, can we guarantee that little Johnny will be able to throw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball? Of course not. That he may be able to. So the 100,000 is the threshold that we know, we guarantee, we promise we can get anyone to by the 3 C's. But certainly, if people want more, it just requires more credibility. That's a bit complicated, right? Because you don't necessarily need a better credit score to get 250,000 to get 100,000 in general, but a stronger credit profile would help. Capacity, of course, needs to be more, the more that we want to borrow, and then the collateral is linear as well. But the point is that 100,000 is the floor. That's why we reference it. But we can certainly help people get more if they want more and if they qualify for more. So then email 6, the final of the 6, do you qualify for a new grant subsidized funding program for business startups? New resources are now available to help entrepreneurs start and grow small businesses with a minimum 100,000 in funding guaranteed. No minimum credit scores to enroll, no minimum time in business, and the call to action. So in wrapping up, what we have created is a 6-email campaign. And if you would like this to send out, you are welcome to. If you would like us to send it out to your prospects, get with us and we can talk about that. There's no charge. We're not going to charge you, but we'll just need to talk about the process in that. Because normally what would happen is we would need to get a CSV or an Excel template of the people that are going to receive that email if you're going to have us send it. So we need at least their name and their email. And it's just not worth, I apologize for saying this, it's not worth doing one or two at a time. So we would need to have a spreadsheet in Excel or CSV format that is material enough to warrant the setup time. Because again, we're not charging anything for it, but it takes time. And so we could certainly visit with you about what your leads list looks like and see if we could help you with that. But there would be no cost. So does anyone have questions, comments, concerns on rather it'd be the concept of, well, why would I want to do a drip marketing campaign? Or questions about the specific content. I like these because as we go through them, I think it does a good job just for you and I to reiterate the value proposition. You know, what does it take to get 100,000 or more of business funding? Does this credit program really work? Hell yeah, it does. And we show them some success stories. Let's say they just want to get that free funding plan. They're not ready to sign up, but they want to know, would it work for me? We can do a free funding plan for them. They don't have to sign up. We'll put together the funding plan and then they can decide if they want to sign up. We reiterate that bad credit isn't a barrier, that we can address that. We cover the 5 things that they need to know about getting business funding that a lot of people don't know. And then lastly, letting them know that the program works for startups. So who has questions, comments, concerns on the email campaign templates, the reason for it, any of the content? You know, it's fine for you to be critically constructive. And so if there's anything in the content here. All right, Samuel's asking how to get it. Just email us, support@guaranteedfunding.org, and we're more than happy to send this out to you so you have it to use if you'd like. So in general, if you are an affiliate, you get a free not in general. If you're an affiliate, you get a free landing page. I'll say it with more certainty. So if you're an affiliate, you get a free landing page. In many cases, that's what your call to action is going to be normally. If you're a white label partner, we can set up a landing page for you, or you may have a different system. So certainly how you ask the person to move forward, what we're calling the call to action, it needs to be tailored, and it's going to typically be a button that takes them, if they click it, to that next step. All right, any other questions? Randy says she's focused on startups. Yeah, I think any of us that focus on those that are the most underserved or most challenged in getting funding is probably the smartest approach, right? So people with bad credit, excellent target market. Startups, excellent target market. So either of those would make a lot of sense. Are we limited to that? No, because these same concepts work regardless. If you're Walmart out of Bentonville, Arkansas, how much borrowing capacity do they have? I know a lot, but what's it based upon? Their 3 C's. I realize they're in a whole different league than what you and I are playing in, but it works the same. Rather it be little Susie that wants to start an at-home daycare, or the CEO of Walmart in Bentonville, Arkansas. When you want to access funding, it comes down to the 3 C's. All right, Samuel asked a good question, and we'll close on this. It is possible that a client comes in and they have an unrealistic goal. So let's say that you had someone come to you and say, I want $3 billion. And you might think I'm being sarcastic, but sometimes you'll have people, I want $3 billion. Well, great. How about this? Let's get you enrolled in the credit and funding program. We'll put together a plan. We guarantee you at least the first 100,000, and then we can continue to work with you on to your goal. That's the way I would answer, because you don't want to promise someone $3 billion. Now, that would be a heck of a payday for you, and it may be possible, but our promises are in writing, and we promise the first 100,000, but we certainly will offer to assist them above and beyond that. So I think the only reason that a client our prospect shouldn't sign up to be a client is if they just wouldn't take 100,000. If that prospect, that hypothetical prospect said, no, I want 3 billion or nothing, I'd walk away from the client. But if they'd say, well, I want 3 billion, but if you're going to promise me 100,000, that would certainly be a good first step. Let's go ahead and give it a try. That's the approach that you want to take. Don't promise anything that we can't deliver. Don't promise anything that's not in writing. And in writing, we promise the first 100,000. Don't stop there, but that's what we promise. All right, great to talk to you all. Have a great day, and we'll see you back tomorrow morning. Let us know if we can be of any assistance to you. Bye-bye.